The sky tore open, and humanity fought back. The night sky over Earth was never supposed to look like this. It began with a ripple, an unnatural distortion in the atmosphere, like a wound being carved into reality itself. Then the heavens tore open, revealing something that should never have been there. A fleet. Massive. Unrelenting. Alien. For centuries, humans had looked up at the stars and wondered if they were alone. That question had just been answered in the worst way possible. The Var'Xen Dominion, a ruthless interstellar empire, had come to claim Earth. Their ships were titanic, sleek, and adorned with symbols of conquest, planets they had raised, species they had extinguished, civilizations they had reduced to dust. They had done this before, many times. To them, Earth was just another insignificant world, a primitive planet ripe for the taking. The Var'Xen High Warlord, Xen'Rax, stood on the command deck of his flagship, the Crimson Rain. The ship's blackened hull reflected the cold void of space, its edges glowing a deep red as it absorbed the planet's electromagnetic signals. "Initiate the cleansing protocols," he commanded, his voice sharp as a blade. His second-in-command, Overseer Thor, bowed slightly. "With pleasure, my warlord." The Var'Xen had studied Earth from the shadows for decades. They knew the planet's military strength, its reliance on fossil fuels, its primitive nuclear arsenal. They had calculated that humanity would surrender within hours, a simple, inevitable conquest. They were wrong. The first strike. The invasion began at 300 UTC. Thousands of orbital dropships rained down from the sky, blazing through the atmosphere like meteors. Cities worldwide fell into chaos as civilians woke to the sight of hulking war machines descending from the heavens. The Var'Xen expected panic, fear, submission. What they got was a fight. The first resistance didn't come from the military. It came from ordinary people. In Chicago, an off-duty firefighter named Dante Rice saw the alien pods landing in Millennium Park. He didn't hesitate. He grabbed his father's old hunting rifle, rallied his neighbors, and turned a suburban street into a makeshift war zone. In Tokyo, a group of university students hacked into the alien frequency, scrambling their landing coordinates and causing hundreds of their drop pods to crash into the ocean. In Berlin, a retired engineer, Elena Krauss, led an underground movement, hijacking an abandoned subway tunnel and using it to transport weapons, food, and soldiers without alien detection. Humanity did not break. It adapted. The battle for Earth's skies. The U.S. Strategic Space Command, stationed in Cheyenne Mountain, was the first military force to respond. Their satellites had picked up the alien fleet hours before it entered the atmosphere, but they weren't prepared for the sheer scale of the invasion. General Isaac Harrington, a veteran of 3 wars, stood at the war room's central holotable, scanning the live feeds. Alien ships swarmed Earth's orbit, dwarfing human space stations. "They have us outgunned, outnumbered, and outmaneuvered," said Colonel Mara Stokes, his second-in-command. Harrington exhaled slowly. "Then we hit them where it hurts." He issued Protocol Blackout, a contingency plan designed for a worst-case extraterrestrial invasion. Military satellites were wiped, power grids were cut, and major cities across the world plunged into darkness. The Var'Xen relied on Earth's digital infrastructure to monitor human resistance. The sudden blackout left them blind. Then, the first counterstrike came. In the darkness, a series of orbital weather satellites, which had been nothing of the sort, activated. Kinetic orbital bombardment systems, disguised as scientific research instruments, rained down hypervelocity tungsten rods on the alien fleet. Rods from God. Entire Var'Xen warships exploded midair before they could deploy their troops. Earth's atmosphere became a graveyard of burning alien metal. The Var'Xen had planned for an invasion, not a trap. The humans weren't primitive. They were prepared. From orbit, Warlord Xen'Rax watched in disbelief as his forces suffered massive, unexpected losses. "What is happening?" he demanded, his four clawed hands tightening into fists. The humans. Thor hesitated. They have been planning for this. Zinrax turned, his expression unreadable. Impossible. They are primitive. Thor gestured to the holographic data pouring into the control center. They have been creating simulations of alien invasions for centuries. Thousands of them. They call it science fiction. The warlord stared at the screen. Hundreds of human books, movies, games, all depicting wars against extraterrestrials. He read the titles aloud. War of the Worlds, Independence Day, Halo, Starship Troopers, Edge of Tomorrow. Thor's voice dropped to a whisper. They have been studying us before they even knew we existed. Another explosion rocked the command deck. A human missile had just breached the hull of a nearby Var'Xen destroyer. For the first time in thousands of years, Zinrax felt something his species had long forgotten. Fear. A war unlike any other. In the coming hours, humanity would prove the impossible. Guerrilla forces across the world hacked into the Var'Xen communication networks, disrupting their coordination. Military forces reverse-engineered alien weapons on the fly, adapting them into their own arsenal. Engineers in underground bunkers began developing countermeasures, repurposing old nuclear deterrent systems into planet-wide EMP bursts. Everywhere, human resilience turned the tides of battle. The Var'Xen had come to conquer. Instead, they had awakened a species that refused to needle. As the war escalated, it became clear this was not going to be an easy conquest. This was going to be a fight for survival. And humanity does not lose. The day humanity became the apex predator. The earth was burning. Cities once filled with life were now battlegrounds. Streets that had echoed with laughter and music now reverberated with the thunderous roar of combat. Yet, through the smog and fire, humanity did not break. It evolved. The Var'Xen Dominion, one of the most feared conquerors in the known galaxy, had expected subjugation. What they got was a lesson in human defiance. The fall of New York, or so they thought. The battle for New York City was supposed to be over within the first hour of the invasion. The Var'Xen had deployed hundreds of ground troops, each standing over 8 feet tall, their obsidian exoskeletons glinting under the city lights. Their advanced energy rifles could melt steel in seconds. Their war machines could pulverize anything in their path. Yet, as they marched down Broadway, expecting surrender, something strange happened. The city vanished. Lights flickered. Power grids shut down. A blackout engulfed Manhattan, Brooklyn, and the Bronx. The Var'Xen scanners detected nothing but silence. Then the first shots rang out. From the shadows of abandoned skyscrapers, human snipers took their positions. The first Var'Xen to fall never even saw the bullet coming. Another explosion rocked the Hudson as a group of New York firefighters, repurposing their old fire trucks, improvised flamethrowers, and set entire Var'Xen platoons ablaze. From below, in the subway tunnels, a retired military strategist, Colonel Marcus Riker, led an underground resistance. Using abandoned subway cars as mobile weapons depots, they struck from beneath the enemy's feet, ambushing patrols and using Molotov cocktails to set the tunnels aflame. The Var'Xen were elite warriors, but they were not ready for human unpredictability. New York was supposed to fall. Instead, it became a fortress of resistance. The psychological war begins. In space, aboard the Crimson Rain, Warlord Zinrax paced the control deck, his claws clicking against the cold steel floor. His invasion had turned into a nightmare. "The humans are not fighting like any species we've encountered before," muttered Thor, his eyes darting nervously at the battle reports. "They're laughing at us." Zinrax turned, his mandibles twitching in disbelief. "What did you just say?" Thor hesitated, then pressed a button. A hacked transmission from Earth played on the ship's speakers. It was a human broadcast. A screen flickered to life, showing 2 young human soldiers sitting in a makeshift bunker. One was wearing a helmet slightly too big for his head. The other was eating a sandwich. "Hey, Var'Xen, how's the invasion going? Y'all having fun yet?" The one with the helmet laughed. "Bro, they really thought they were gonna roll in here and take Earth. They didn't even know we had Call of Duty training." The second soldier chuckled, taking another bite. "Anyway, we just took out one of your war mechs with a slingshot and a bottle of Coke. Let us know if you all want to quit before it gets embarrassing." Then the screen cut to a cat wearing a tiny military uniform, standing on a tank. The humans had weaponized mockery. Kelthor turned, his mandibles clicking anxiously. "This is the first enemy in Dominion history that is psychologically taunting us during battle, my warlord." Zinrax slammed his fist onto the command table. "Crush them. Operation Nemesis. The humans go on the offensive." The Var'Xen had superior firepower. They had numbers, but they had never fought an enemy that refused to fight on their terms. Instead of direct engagements, humanity attacked from the shadows. In Paris, resistance fighters rewired the city's old catacombs to create an underground network of escape routes and traps, leading entire alien battalions into dead ends where they were ambushed from above. In India, cyber warriors at the Defense Intelligence Agency managed to hack into the Var'Xen's targeting systems, causing their warships to fire upon each other instead of human cities. In Australia, a group of former wildlife conservationists used trained falcons and drones to intercept enemy scout units, effectively blinding the invaders. The Var'Xen, for the first time in their history, were fighting an enemy that adapted faster than they did. A desperate move. The bioweapon gambit. Realizing they were losing control, the Var'Xen resorted to their deadliest weapon. A planetary bioweapon known as VX-77, designed to decimate Earth's population while leaving its infrastructure intact. Aboard the Crimson Rain, Dr. Crix, the chief bioweapons engineer, observed the release sequence. "The humans' immune systems are primitive," he assured Warlord Zinrax. "They will succumb in days." VX-77 was deployed into Earth's atmosphere. Invisible, odorless, a perfect weapon. The invasion fleet watched in anticipation, waiting for humanity to fall. But nothing happened. Humanity's greatest weapon, evolution. Dr. Crix ran the calculations again. Then again. His exoskeleton paled in horror. This can't be right," he whispered. A terrified Var'Xen assistant hesitated before speaking. "Sir, the virus isn't killing them." Crix's mandibles trembled. "That's impossible. VX-77 is lethal to all carbon-based life forms." The assistant handed him a human medical report intercepted from a New York hospital. Patient reported mild symptoms after exposure, slight headache, fatigue. Was given a cup of tea and told to walk it off. Patient recovered in 3 hours. Crix collapsed into a chair. Their immune systems aren't primitive, he realized in horror. They're war machines. Warlord Zinrax grabbed him by the throat. "Explain. Now." Crix coughed, his claws shaking. "The humans, they've spent millennia fighting off plagues. Their bodies are battle-hardened. Their medical advancements, far beyond what we estimated." Zinrax's grip tightened. "You mean to tell me our bioweapon is useless?" A notification appeared on the control screen. "Incoming transmission from Earth." The screen flickered on. A human doctor, an elderly woman with tired eyes, looked at the camera. She smirked. "Nice try, boys. But next time, bring something stronger than the common cold." Then the transmission cut off. A war unlike any other. The Var'Xen had planned for military conquest. They hadn't planned for human adaptability. They hadn't planned for psychological warfare. And they definitely hadn't planned for an immune system that could shrug off their most advanced bioweapons. As the first Var'Xen ships began retreating, humanity realized something. This wasn't just a fight for survival anymore. This was a hunt. And for the first time in history, humanity became the apex predator. The hunters become the hunted. The tides of war shift. The Var'Xen Dominion, once feared across the stars, had never faced an enemy like humanity. They had never fought a species that adapted in real time, that laughed in the face of annihilation, and that weaponized memes, guerrilla tactics, and their own immune systems. Now, they were on the defensive. Their warships were burning in orbit, their troops ambushed at every turn, and their most advanced bioweapons were proving to be no deadlier than seasonal allergies. For the first time in thousands of years, the Var'Xen had only one option left: survival. But humanity wasn't done. This wasn't just about defending Earth anymore. This was about sending a message. You don't come to our home and expect to leave unscathed. The first interstellar counterattack. Cheyenne Mountain Command Center, Earth. General Isaac Harrington stood at the war table, surrounded by a room of military leaders, cyber warfare specialists, and scientists. The invasion had crippled Earth's major cities, but humanity had fought back harder than anyone expected. And now, it was time to strike back. "We're no longer just playing defense," Harrington said, his voice carrying the weight of history. "We've got the upper hand, and we're going to make sure they never come back." The room was silent for a moment. Then, Colonel Mara Stokes smirked. "Sir, we have something they won't see coming." She tapped a holographic display. A classified military project appeared on the screen. Project Iron Fist. Harrington's eyes narrowed. "You're telling me we have a functional space fleet?" "Not just a fleet," Stokes replied. "A mobile strike force, equipped with reverse-engineered alien tech. We've been preparing for this for decades." "How many ships?" Harrington asked. "Just a handful," Stokes admitted. "But with what we've learned from the enemy's technology, they're armed far beyond anything the Var'Xen will expect." A murmur of approval spread across the room. For the first time in this war, humanity wasn't just surviving. We were going on the offensive. The hunt begins. Earth's first war fleet, the Iron Fist Armada. As Earth's military mobilized, engineers and scientists worked around the clock to retrofit captured Var'Xen ships with human ingenuity. Alien energy weapons were modified to function on human power sources. Advanced targeting systems were redesigned with Earth's best AI combat algorithms. Weapons were adapted to fit human combat doctrine: fast, ruthless, and unpredictable. In just 72 hours, humanity had gone from primitive space travel to a fully armed war fleet. The Iron Fist Armada was launched from Earth's hidden orbital stations, ships of war, crafted by human ingenuity and alien technology fused together. Their mission was simple: track the retreating Var'Xen fleet, find their command stations, take the fight to them. The Var'Xen retreat, or so they thought. Crimson Rain, Var'Xen command ship. Warlord Zinrax stared at the devastation unfolding across Earth's orbit. Ships burning, troops slaughtered, humanity refusing to die. "Pull back the remaining forces," he barked, rage boiling beneath his exoskeleton. Kelthor hesitated. "But my warlord, the humans, are not worth the losses." Zinrax snarled. "We underestimated them. We'll regroup, bring reinforcements, and erase this world when they least expect it." The order was given. The Var'Xen began their retreat, their surviving warships jumping into hyperspace, fleeing Earth's wrath. For the first time in their history, they had been defeated in a direct confrontation. They had underestimated humanity once. They wouldn't make that mistake again. Earth strikes back. Deep space, the Iron Fist Armada in pursuit. But the Var'Xen weren't just retreating. They were being hunted. The Iron Fist Armada was already tracking their movements. Humanity had mastered space combat in record time. And now, Earth's forces were ready for their first interstellar battle. In the cold void of space, the first human-led ambush in galactic history took place. Human warships moved faster than the Var'Xen expected, their maneuvers unpredictable. The Var'Xen's encrypted communications were useless. Earth's cyber warfare teams had hacked into their systems, turning their own network against them. Human fighter pilots, trained in generations of aerial combat, outmaneuvered alien starfighters. The first Var'Xen battleship exploded before they even realized they were under attack. The end of the war, or just the beginning. In just 3 hours, half of the Var'Xen retreating fleet was annihilated. The survivors, those who barely escaped Earth's counterattack, flowed to Var'Xen-controlled space, spreading panic through their own ranks. They had invaded Earth, but Earth had followed them home. A final message to the galaxy. The Var'Xen homeworld, days later. The surviving Var'Xen forces returned to their homeworld, battered, broken, and terrified. And then the final blow came. A hacked transmission appeared across every Var'Xen broadcast. A human general, standing before the wreckage of a fallen Var'Xen warship, smiled at the camera. "We told you not to mess with us." The screen cut to Earth's war fleet, now stationed at the edges of Var'Xen territory. Waiting, watching, ready. Then the final words appeared on the screen, a message that would haunt the Var'Xen for generations. "This is not a war. This is a boarn. Ing. Try us again, and we will erase you." The transmission ended. Silence fell across the Var'Xen Dominion. For the first time in history, they weren't the apex predators of the galaxy. Humanity was. The reckoning of the Var'Xen. The galaxy watches in fear. The Var'Xen Dominion, once a name that struck terror across the stars, was crumbling before the eyes of the galaxy. The impossible had happened. A so-called primitive species, humanity, had not only defended their homeworld, but had followed their would-be conquerors into the void. For the first time in history, the predators had become the prey. The surviving Var'Xen warlords convened in a secret council deep within their homeworld, Sarvok Prime, a fortress planet at the heart of their empire. Warlord Zinrax, his pride already in shambles, stood before them, forced to explain how an entire invasion force had been decimated by the very species they had underestimated. The chamber was silent as he spoke. "Our fleet has suffered catastrophic losses," Zinrax admitted, his voice devoid of its usual arrogance. "Humanity is not like the others we have conquered." A murmur rippled through the council. "How?" demanded Overlord Tivosk, an elder of the Dominion. "How could a species barely capable of interstellar travel have done this to us?" Zinrax's mandibles clicked in frustration. "They are unpredictable," he said finally. "They do not fight as we do. They do not fear war. They embrace it. They study it. They perfect it. They have been preparing for an invasion long before they even knew we existed." A silence fell over the chamber. And then, a transmission hacked into their secure communications. The humans were calling. Earth's message to the Var'Xen. Across the Var'Xen homeworld, massive screens hijacked every broadcast, from military installations to civilian outposts. A human general stood before a captured Var'Xen battle flag, his boots firmly planted on the wreckage of an alien warship. His expression was calm, calculated, unrelenting. Behind him, humanity's new war fleet, a terrifying mix of Earth's ingenuity and stolen alien technology, hovered in the darkness of space, watching. Then he spoke. To the Var'Xen Dominion. His voice echoed through every Var'Xen city, striking fear deeper than any battle had. "You came to our home. You tried to destroy us. You thought we would kneel." A long pause. "But we are not a species that kneels." The screen flickered, showing high-speed footage of Earth's counterattack, Var'Xen ships being torn apart, their soldiers slaughtered, their war machines reduced to nothing but smoldering wreckage. "You called us primitive, but we are not like the others you have conquered." He leaned closer to the camera, his next words sending a ripple of terror through the entire Dominion. "You never conquered a species like us before." Another pause. "Now we give you one chance to make this right." The war fleet behind him shifted, revealing massive railgun arrays, planet-cracking missile silos, and pulse cannons scavenged from Var'Xen warships now aimed at the heart of their empire. The message was clear: surrender or be erased. The screen flickered off, leaving the Var'Xen leaders in a stunned, horrified silence. The High Overlord's decision. The council chamber erupted in chaos. "We cannot allow this," one of the warlords screeched. "They are humans, inferior beings. They just wiped out our best fleet, you fool." Another roared. "They outmaneuvered us, outfought us, and now they are at our doorstep." Overlord Tvosk slowly stood, his gaze piercing through the chamber. "We cannot win a war against them," he admitted. "Not now. Not while they have the momentum." He turned to Xenrax. "Order the immediate withdrawal of all remaining Var'Xen forces from human space," he said, his voice grim. "Send an envoy. Offer a truce before they decide we are not worth sparing." Xenrax's mandibles clenched. "But if we retreat now, we will be seen as weak," he whispered. "The Empire will fall." Tvosk's eyes darkened. "The Empire has already fallen, Warlord. The final battle that never came. Earth's fleet, in position over Ktarvok Prime. The human fleet waited. Every railgun, every missile battery, every pulse cannon, all aimed at the Var'Xen homeworld. But they did not fire. They waited. They watched. And then, the Var'Xen sent their surrender. A single, simple message. "We yield." Aboard the command ship, General Harrington exhaled slowly, nodding to his officers. "We did it," Colonel Stokes whispered, her voice filled with disbelief. "We won." Humanity had done what no species in the galaxy had ever done before. They had stared down one of the greatest empires in the universe and made them blink first. A new galactic order. The surrender of the Var'Xen sent shockwaves across the galaxy. Other species, many of whom had lived in fear of the Dominion for centuries, rose up in rebellion. The Var'Xen collapsed within weeks, their own enslaved worlds turning against them, emboldened by humanity's defiance. And so, the once mighty Dominion vanished. In its place, a new order emerged. And at its head, humanity. The final warning. Before departing Var'Xen space, Earth broadcasted one final message across the stars. It was simple. It was clear. It was a warning. To those who would challenge us, we are not conquerors, but we are not prey. If you come for us, we will not just survive. We will end you. And with that, humanity stepped into the stars, not as victims, not as slaves, but as legends. The galaxy would never be the same again.